Welcome back, Fantasy Pros. I'm Andrew Erickson. Today, breaking down the trade market, players to trade away and for with the approaching fantasy football trade deadline coming up. But before I get to my trades, we've got a special offer for you all. Unlock a month of Betting Pros Premium for free. All you have to do, download the Betting Pros app today, use promo code FPFREE, get access to tools like the same game parlay tool, the prop bet analyzer, and the Prize Picks prop bet cheat sheet. Don't miss out. Try it for free for 1 month right now. Available on iOS and Android. Now, let's get to the trade list. Kareem Hunt, rest of season rank, RB28, sell. The usage and production of Kareem Hunt has been virtually off the charts. If he wasn't past his prime, he'd be pushing for top 5 weekly RB status. Makes you wonder about the type of season Isaiah Pacheco was set up to have before his injury. You can expect more fantasy RB1 production from Hunt against Buffalo in Week 11, especially in the passing game. But Hunt managers need to realize this might not end well come the fantasy football playoffs. Isaiah Pacheco's eventual return after being designated to return from injured reserve creates some ambiguity about how useful Hunt will be in crunch time during the fantasy football playoffs. Don't hold on to him too tightly before he loses his value. Move one of Fantasy Pros' most traded players over the last few days. For Khalil Shakir, Lad McConkey, Chuba Hubbard, Nick Chubb, or this next buy low wide receiver, Amari Cooper, rest season rank, wide receiver 29, buy. Cooper was inactive again for Sunday's game against the Colts with a wrist injury. With that, it's another week where his value has fallen. I want to buy low. Keon Coleman looks like he's going to miss more games than Amari Cooper. The rookie has already been rolled out against the Chiefs in Week 11. We won't see him until after the bye week, most likely. What do we always need to do after Cooper busts or disappoints? You buy low. Although it comes with the caveat you want to get on the Cooper ride at all. But you know that Cooper has a massive weekly ceiling attached to Josh Allen. That could be exactly what you need to have in the fantasy football playoffs to put you over the top. Buy Amari Cooper on the cheap with players like Jackson Smith-Njigba, DJ Moore, Brian Thomas Jr., or with his next sell high running back, Najee Harris, rest of season rank, RB26, sell. In the Steelers' ground game in Week 10, Jaylen Warren led the team, 14 carries for 66 yards, averaging 4.7 yards per carry with a long rush of 12 yards. Najee Harris, meanwhile, carried the ball 21 times for 53 yards, scored a touchdown, but averages 2.5 yards per carry. Harris did get banged up in this contest, but returned to the fourth quarter. He had 5 red zone rushing attempts and scored one side the touchdown. Warren had 5 carries in the first half to Harris's 8. But Warren also had 3 red zone rushing attempts, but he also fumbled at the goal line. Not a ringing endorsement for him to see more red zone touches. Warren didn't touch the ball again after the fumble. However, before that time, the snaps were in slight favor of Jaylen Warren over Najee Harris. And Harris' last 4 games have been great, but the matchups against the Commanders, Raiders, Jets, and Giants have been extremely soft spots. I've probably been too aggressive trying to sell Harris so early, but the time is right now to sell high on him. I want to use this great game as the exact opportunity for Harris to move off of him after he ranks 11th in the NFL in touches. The schedule gets much tougher in the second half of the season with all 6 AFC North matchups coming up for the Steelers. Warren is getting healthier and looking good, which I think is going to create problems for Najee Harris in the second half of the year. Again, Warren led the Steelers in rushing success rate with 50% in Week 10 compared to Harris's 29% success rate. The 2 upcoming Ravens matchups and Kansas City in the fantasy playoffs is absolutely brutal for Najee Harris. Per PFF, the Steelers have the 31st ranked schedule for running backs for the rest of the season. I want to sell Najee Harris, Ryan Robinson Jr., Ramondre Stevenson, Josh Downs, or this next buy running back target, Bucky Irving, rest of season rank, RB25, buy. Week 10, Bucky Irving led the rushing attack, 13 carries for 73 yards, averaging 5.6 yards per carry, including a 14-yard rush and a touchdown. Bucky led with 6 first-half carries to Rachaad White's 2. The rookie also had 3 red zone rushing attempts, scored a rushing touchdown. Per Next Gen Stats, Irving has forced a total of 40 missed tackles on rushing attempts this season. Meanwhile, Rachaad White only had 10 carries for 31 yards, averaging 3.1 yards per carry. White played 61% of the snaps to Irving's 46% snap share. White was still involved in the passing game, 6 catches on 7 targets for 39 yards, including a touchdown. Irving, though, also contributed 3 catches on 3 targets for 14 yards. Rachaad White has gotten by the last 4 games with 5 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Irving is the best running back on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. After White scored yet again, I want to take advantage by acquiring Irving on the Buccaneers bye week. The Bucs have a great schedule for running backs for the rest of the season. Per the FantasyPros strength of schedule tool, it's the number one most favorable schedule for running backs by the rookie with JSN, Tony Pollard, or this next major sell running back. DeAndre Swift, rest of season rank, RB23, sell. In the rushing game for the Bears against the Pats, DeAndre Swift led with 16 carries for 59 yards, averaging 3.7 yards per carry with a long run of 9 yards. He had 2 red zone rushing attempts but did not score. I wanted to give the Bears team an offense one more week before selling them, but they couldn't even produce against the Patriots. No team has a more difficult schedule left this season than the Bears. And even though we might see a uptick from their production without Shane Waldron in the first game, I don't think it's going to last the rest of the season. They have the Packers in week 11, weeks 12 through 17, Vikings, at the Lions, at the 49ers, at the Vikings, Detroit, and Seattle. I really think the Patriots defense was the last great matchup for this team, aside from Seattle in week 17, but there's no telling how far these teams are going to make it relying on Bears. Per the FantasyPros strength of schedule tool, the Bears are tied for the number 32nd ranked schedule for quarterbacks, dead last for receivers, and for running backs specifically, bottom 5 for the rest of the season. I can't sell Swift fast enough, who probably, though, has the most value left among the Bears' skill players. Injuries, meanwhile, have decimated the Bears' offensive line, and I want no part of this backfield down the stretch. Sell DeAndre Swift for Ramondre Stevenson, Tyrone Tracy, Mike Evans, Brian Robinson, or my next buy running back target. Before we get to my next guy, take a quick look at how my playbook can help you dominate your deals. The rookie himself, Tyrone Tracy Jr., rest of season rank RB19 by week 10. Tyrone Tracy led the Giants with 18 carries for over 100 yards and a touchdown, averaging 5.7 yards per carry with a long rush of 32 yards. Singletary, meanwhile, added 40 rushing yards on 8 attempts, averaging 5 yards per carry with a long of 14 yards. The first half carries were 8 for Tracy and 3 for Singletary. The rookie also had 3 red zone rushing attempts, and he totaled an 80% snap share. He is the Giants' RB1, and it was a near perfect day for Tracy had it not been for a back-breaking lost fumble in overtime. Still, I expect the rookie to finish the season strong. Per the FantasyPros strength of schedule tool, the Giants have an above-average schedule rest of season for running backs. The schedule lays out after the bye week against the Buccaneers, Cowboys, Saints, Ravens, Falcons, and Colts. Aside from the Ravens, it's smooth sailing. By Tyrone Tracy. He's averaging over 5 yards per carry this year, averaging nearly 100 rushing yards per game in his last 5 with at least 7 carries. Get him on your team with Brian Thomas Jr., Tony Pollard, or this next sell high running back, J.K. Dobbins, rest of season rank, RB21, sell. Dobbins had 15 carries for 50 yards at just 3.3 yards per carry in week 10. He had 3 red zone opportunities, but he did not score. Meanwhile, Gus Edwards returned to the lineup and actually led the Chargers with 10 carries for 55 yards, averaging a strong 5.5 yards per carry with a long of 11 yards. He stepped in immediately and had 4 red zone rushing attempts, but scored 0 rushing touchdowns. Edwards had 6 first half carries to Dobbins' 8. Meanwhile, Hassan Haskins actually scored the 1 rushing touchdown. It was an absolute killer for Dobbins managers for Haskins to get the vulture touchdown. But with a committee brewing in Los Angeles in this backfield, the time is now to sell on J.K. Dobbins. Per the FantasyPros strength of schedule tool, they have the second worst ranked schedule for running backs. I think it's going to be tough sledding the rest of the season for Dobbins, and injecting Edwards back into the fold as a red zone headache is another layer of complexity. It's time to sell high on Dobbins before the stretch run. Trade him for a Jets receiver, Mike Evans, Darnell Mooney, Brian Robinson Jr., or this next potential league-winning rookie wide receiver. Marvin Harrison Jr., rest season rank, wide receiver 19. Talked about it last week, going right back to it. Marvin Harrison, again, strong showing despite a tough matchup versus the Jets in week 10. Caught all 5 of his targets for 54 yards, 1 red zone touchdown, averaging nearly 11 yards per reception. He held a 21% target share, totaled 35 air yards for a 32% air yard share. Like last week, I want to buy MHJ. The Cardinals are on their bye in week 11, but after their bye, schedule is salivating for a playoff run for any of these Cardinals players. At Seattle, at Minnesota, versus Seattle at home, versus the Patriots at home, at Carolina, at the Rams, and versus 49ers at home in the Fantasy Football Championships. Look for Harrison to take full advantage of the post-bye week rookie bump and drive fantasy managers to championships. Get Harrison with an aging running back or another running back I've already talked about here on the show today. Or sell this superstar wide receiver that might not have a great outlook rest of season due to his quarterback injuries. CeeDee Lamb, rest of season rank, wide receiver 12, sell. I entertained the idea of buying low on Lamb last week, but that was before we got more news and information regarding Dak Prescott being gone for the entire season due to his hamstring injury. Dallas is spiraling right now, and I don't have hope that this is going to get changed anytime soon or the remainder of the season. So after being hesitant to bury Dallas completely last week, I have my shovel and we're ready to go. This team is 3-6, could easily be 3-8 after games against the Texans and Commanders upcoming before they host the Giants on Thanksgiving. Can't wait. The rest of the schedule is as follows: Bengals, Panthers, Bucks, Eagles. I'll admit, it's a very nice, juicy playoff schedule, but if there's no Dak Prescott, Lamb is just a volume-dependent wide receiver. Note that all his games with Cooper Rush back in 2022 weren't great, and fantasy managers would be complaining less had he just caught the touchdown last week instead of losing it in the sun. Whether you have him or not, I think you need to check the price on his value in your league. If you can get him dirt cheap, I would take it. He's a wide receiver with double-digit targets, a favorable playoff schedule. But if you can get something solid in return, ideally you're packaging Lamb so he's not the focal point of a deal, I don't think you'll regret moving away from the Dallas Cowboys wide receiver 1. Again, I don't know the price of Lamb in your league, but if I just flat out buy, sell in a vacuum, I'd likely be happy just to wipe my hands clean of any and all players from the Dallas Cowboys. Some deals I'd gladly take for one of FantasyPros' most traded players the last few days, include A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, George Pickens, or this next prime buy running back target coming off of his bye week. Josh Jacobs, rest of season rank, RB13, buy. Packers have the third best schedule for running backs for the remainder of the season. Buy Josh Jacobs. The former Raiders running back is 4th in rushing yards this season, 5th in PFF rushing grade, and 11th in total yards from scrimmage. Even if rookie Marshawn Lloyd can return and earn a role on offense, it will likely only come at the expense of the other ancillary running backs on the Packers roster. I want to buy Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, or Cooper Kupp. That ties a bow on my player trade list for Week 11 and the Fantasy Football trade deadlines. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe, share with all your friends, just not your league mates. And again, before you go, don't forget, we've got a special offer for you all. Unlock a month of Betting Pros Premium for free. All you have to do, download the Betting Pros app today using promo code FPFREE. Get you access to tools like the same game parlay tool, the prop bet analyzer, and the prize picks prop bet cheat sheet. Don't miss out. Try it for free for 1 month now. Available on iOS and Android. And follow me at bettingpros.com/Erickson for all my favorite picks and player props every NFL week. Thanks for watching and good luck.